This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Sort of the elephant in the room, which has to do with what's been going on in the banking sector, mainly in the United States, the catalyst of which was what happened with the Silicon Valley Bank. I just wanted, since this is a public meeting, if you could just give some reassurance to those who may be watching that Canadian banks are not at risk, and that the Canadian banking system will remain on solid ground despite what's going on internationally. Any one of you could take that.
Yeah, I can start. I think what we're observing, it's important to realize what we're observing in the United States really starts with very idiosyncratic factors and conditions affecting specific banks. And, we're talking about a banking system with 7,000 banks. It's not the same type of management that you're going to have in a system that have 7 major banks or financial institutions. So there were regulatory gaps. There was obviously the effect of very fast rising interest rates and some troubles in managing that risk in certain banks' balance sheets. Obviously, combined with bank run, an electronic bank run, which goes much faster, as we discovered, than those long waiting lines. So all those factors, I think, combine to produce what we're seeing. And then there's the confidence aspect that produces fragilities elsewhere. But in the case of Canada, our system has been, I think, consistently demonstrated to be resilient. That was the case even in 2008, 2009, which was orders of magnitude more complicated, featuring credit issues, toxic assets. And our financial system ended up being quite resilient. We ended up importing the negative effects on our economy, but our banks were sound. And if anything, they've been reinforced by very tight regulation and very sound regulation since then. So I'm not concerned that we might see something like this in Canada. However, what's going on certainly means that the credit is going to be slowing down further. It was already slowing down in the U.S. It's going to slow further. We might see that as well in Canada, as we see a bit of prudence on the part of certain financial institutions. Yeah. And so it reinforces the idea that we are going to see a recession as a result.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, last fall there was an article in The Economist that was published assessing housing risk, and it actually ranked Canada as number one in terms of housing risk. Netherlands was second. The United States was seventh. Italy was 17th. And the article said that bring this all together, all the ingredients for a deep housing slump are in place. This time, though, it's likely not to be led not by America, but by Canada, the Netherlands, Australia, and New Zealand. Economists at the Royal Bank expect the country's volume of sales to plummet by more than 40% in 22-23, exceeding the 38% drop in 2008-2009. That article was published in October of last year. I'm wondering if you could comment on whether or not you agree with that assessment, and whether 6 months later we're seeing that prediction in reality.
There's no question that the Canadian housing market is correcting. We're seeing on a nationwide basis more than double-digit declines from the peaks we had. But it's interesting, though. A couple things. Number one is even though home sales are falling, suggesting that the demand for homes themselves has fallen in the wake of higher interest rates, that the availability of homes in terms of is also falling commensurately. There's not a lot of forced selling out there. There's not a lot of people stretched beyond their means, and I think because of that, this isn't a sort of a 2008 2009 situation. Canadian financial institutions are very prudent lenders. Canadian households tend to be very prudent borrowers, which was not the case in the United States, as you know, during the Great Recession and the global financial crisis that preceded it. So I do think, yes, we're getting a correction. It's going to be a drag on economic activity. It will likely continue to contribute to the risk of a downturn. But I do think it is manageable, it is containable, and so I'm not at all worried that this is going to spark an even larger problem in the economy.
My first questions are for Mr. Gregory at BMO. One of the comments that you had made during your opening address talked about record high household debt burdens. And we know that CIBC has said that 1 in 5 of the mortgages that they have in their portfolio are in a position where the borrower's monthly payment was not high enough to even cover the interest portion of their loan. Do you happen to know at BMO if there are similar numbers that you're seeing there?
I'm not familiar with those figures at either institution or my own, quite frankly.
Great, thank you. So one of the things that you had mentioned as well is that you were talking about increasing of interest rates and how this slows the economy down efficiently and effectively, and you had made reference how households might make different buying decisions and what they might do. At the same time, part of this is as people are renewing their mortgages, then their mortgage payments are higher. So with the increase of interest rates, is it not true that, in fact, the banks themselves are the recipients of increased revenue based on the increase of interest rates?
Again, that's not my area of expertise of how sort of banks generate their revenues. But obviously, Canadian households are going to be stressed to some degree as they make these choices. But the thing I will come back to is the fact we've tested this. This is why we have a stress test. This is why we have one of the safest and soundest financial systems in the world, is because we take account of these potential problems. And now, higher interest rates are going to come home to roost. And I think for the bulk of mortgages, there'll be some adjustments that are going to have to be made, but those adjustments are all doable, and that's the important thing.
Thank you. So, as a senior economist with BMO, do you advise the senior leadership team and the board of directors on economic issues? Do you advise them and give them your thoughts on maybe ways that the financial institution might want to look at risk mitigation and sort of help with the direction as to the decision of BMO?
I personally do not do that. It's possible that the chief economist, Mr. Douglas Porter, may in fact be involved in more of those. But we do provide information through the reports that we publish, which are available publicly, and I do meet regularly with various people throughout our institution, as well as our clients, to give them our opinions and our insights, and hopefully have them all make better decisions.
Are you concerned that defaults will go up?
Well, I'm always concerned when the economy looks like it may be headed to a downturn, there's always some fallout from that. There always is when there's a downturn. The good news is that downturn is going to be mild by historical standards. And to put that in a little bit of a context, we officially are looking for negative growth in the second and third quarter of this year, but a peak to trough of just about 2 to 3/10 in terms of a net decline in GDP. While that may barely satisfy the technical definition of a recession, it's not going to generate the kind of strains on creditworthiness that more typical downturns would
Thank you. When you said the word fallout, does that mean people losing their homes? Is that what you meant by fallout? Do you believe that more people will be vulnerable in losing their homes?
By fallout, I mean implications for credit deterioration credit worthiness from the whole gamut of all the borrowers in the Canadian economy, both consumers and businesses.
And foreclosures as well? I mean, you're talking about people's credit history being potentially harmed, and maybe not. You're not saying that you're expecting insolvencies to go up. Is that what you're saying? That it would be more just affecting their credit history?
What I'm saying is that we are going to have a kind of weakness in the economy that should have a minimal impact because it's not going to be a typical recession. It's going to be a very mild one. There's a tremendous amount of support for households in terms of $350 billion of accumulated excess savings. Some of that, unlike U.S. consumers, they've actually started to tap that. Not Canadian consumers. Our more conservative bent, I suspect, has us stashing that away potentially for a rainy day. And so I think the
Thank you.
you know.